Hi boys and girls. Alright, today we're going to be looking at number sense for decimal division as found in topic 7-3. We're going to be correctly placing the decimal point in a quotient. There's a couple methods of doing this. One, the number sense, if we look at an example here, would be thinking about your dividend and your divisor. For example, in this first one, 7.68 divided by 1.5. A couple things I notice is I'm dividing a whole number by another whole number. I'm also having my dividend bigger than my divisor. So those pieces of information tell me a lot. One, they're going to tell me that because my dividend is bigger than my divisor and they're both whole numbers, that my quotient should be smaller than my dividend. Now, it's really important that I paid attention to that second piece of information, that my divisor was smaller than my dividend, because that could really change a lot of things, and that it was a whole number. The other thing I can look at is just kind of estimating. This is 7, this is 1. 7 divided by 1, my answer is 7. So it means my real answer should be somewhere in the ones place, or somewhere close to 7. They gave us the digits 5, 1, 2, meaning my answer could be 5.12, 51.2, 512, or anywhere else. For me, if I said 7 divided by 1 is 7, I'm going to notice that my answer should be 5.12. The reasoning being that the 5, sorry, you can't tell when I point at my screen, the 5 is in the ones place, as is 7 divided by 1 is 7. Now, can be a little confusing, so I like to show my work, and I think it makes things a lot more clear, and we're going to do that on number 2. Number 2 said 256.5 divided by 2.5. And the digits they gave me for the quotient, they said the real answer is 1026. And I went ahead and listed the examples. It could be, the decimal could be at the end, making this 1026. It could be here for 102.6, 10.26, or 1.026. Now we're going to go ahead and do our estimation. And I'm going to follow the same 4 rules, but if I'm not going for the best estimation, I can be a little off on step 1 with my rounding. I can try and just make it an easier number. But I'm going to show the steps. The first step, of course, was round your divisor. So when I look at 2.5, the ones place was my largest value being used. So I'm going to round to the ones place, which means 2 can be an answer, or after 2 comes 3. So I'm either going to round 2.5 to 2 or 3. And when I look next door, I really should round up to 3, because the 5 is halfway between 2 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 2.5 is about 3. Step 2 that we learned yesterday was we are now going to make our dividend a compatible number. So I'm going to look at 256.5. And remember, since this is one digit, I'm really going to pay attention to the first 2 digits. And I'm not going to pay attention to my decimal. And this 6 in the ones place is automatically just going to become a 0, because I'm only paying attention to the first 2 places. But I gotta have that 0 there for a placeholder, because that's in the ones place. So now I think, okay, can 25 be divided by 3? Is 25 a multiple of 3? And it's not. So like we worked on the last lesson, I say, okay, what are the 2 multiples that go around 25? And 24 and 27. So which multiple do I want to use? Whichever one's the closest, which in this case is the 24. So now I have 240 divided by 3. And the third step was to go ahead and divide. 24 divided by 3 is 8. And because I know 24 divided by 3 is 8, I would know 240 divided by 3 would be 80. Our last step was to place the decimal points. 240 did not have any decimal or any place values after a decimal. Neither did the whole number 3. So, I have my quotient. I'm estimating that 256.5 divided by 2.5 is going to equal something around 80. So if I look at my answers, 1 is pretty far off. 10, well, it's in the tens place, like the 8 and 80 is, but 10 is not very close to 80. So I'm not going to choose that one. 102.6. 102 is not very far off from 80. 1,026, it's a big jump. I always think of money. $1,026 compared to $80, that's a big jump. So we believe, based off my estimation, that 256.5 divided by 2.5 will be 102.6. Okay, I'm going to pause the video so I can write, and we're going to do the next example. Okay, our next example was 1,127.84 divided by 3.8. And here was my possibilities for my answers. They gave me the digits 2, 9, 6, 8, and I've placed my decimal in different spots. So let's go through our division for estimation just like before. 3.8 is my divisor, and I'm going to round it. So you look at your largest value, which is the ones place, and look next door. Okay, actually 3 could either become 3 or 4. Sorry, I kind of went a little quick there. Then I look next door and saw it was an 8. So I'm going to jump to the number 4. Then I go over here, and once again, I'm dividing by one digit, so I'm really only going to pay attention to the 2 largest place values, and anything else is going to become just zeros in between those numbers and the decimal. So the 7 in the ones place becomes a 0, the 2 in the tens becomes a 0, and I have to have those as place value holders. My decimal, I'm just going to ignore. I don't need those. So is 11 a multiple of 4? No. 11 comes in between the numbers 8 and 12, though. And the number closest to 11, that's a multiple of 4, is 12. And we're going to go ahead and divide. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 120 divided by 4 is 30. And 1,200 divided by 4 would be 300. Now we have no decimals in either of my dividend or divisor, so this is my final answer. Once again, I'm estimating that 1,127.84 divided by 3.84 should be somewhere around 300. So we look at our options. No, that's only $2. Remember, I used dollars to compare. So I'm thinking $300. That's $2.90 some cents. $29. No. 296.8. Yeah, that looks really close, but I'm going to check my next one. 2,968. It's pretty far off. My best choice is right here. 296.8. Okay, I'm going to pause and do one last video, or one last example. Okay. The example that we're going to do is 7.84 divided by 0.28. Same 4 steps as every time. Round our divisor to the largest value, which is in the 10th. Because it's 10th, my possible answers are what I underlined, 0.2, and then 1 after that is 0.3. We look next door at our next place value, and it's at 8, which told me the 8 is closer to the next number, which was 0.3. We are going to look at my dividend, and it's a whole number and a decimal. So we forget about the decimal, and I'm only looking at the number 7. Is 7 a multiple of 3? No. So I want to change 7. It comes between the multiples 6 and 9. And 7 is closer to 6. I'm going to go ahead and divide, ignoring any decimals. 6 divided by 3 was 2. And here's my decimal. Now this time, 6 doesn't have any decimals, but the 3 did. This was 0.3, 3/10. So there was one place value, decimal, the 10th place. So remember, that tells me I'm going to have to go in my quotient and jump one place value to the right. On my 2 point, I had no number, so I annex a 0, and then I jump to the right. And I end up with the number 20. So I'm estimating that 7.84 divided by 0.28 should be 20. And for a few people that are confused, because I only had 7, how can I end up with 20? Because we were dividing, our divisor was less than 1. When I'm dividing by less than 1, it's actually going to make my quotient bigger than my dividend. So on my options, which one's the closest to 20? 28 cents compared to $20? No. $2.80 compared to 20? Or 2.8 to 20, but I always use money as an example. Not real close, but not horrible, so I'm just going to leave it and think. 28.0 compared to 20? Yeah, that's a lot closer than 2.8, so I'm going to close that one off. And then my last option was 280. No, that's too far off. So I'm saying my answer of 7.84 divided by 0.28 would be 28. Okay, hope that helps. Make sure you go on Edpuzzle and try taking your quiz. Thank you.